We get you set around the Stanley Cup postseason with one of the best to do it with the ice advice. That would be NHL's Pete Jensen joining us here on this Tuesday morning on the early line on SportsGrid. Pete, what a quadruple header of playoff games around the Stanley Cup postseason last night on a Monday evening. We will recap all four of them for you, what it means for these opening round playoff series. Pete's not going away after just one segment. He will be here to round out this second hour to look at our action on the ice tonight. Pete, as always, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, of course. We never know what to expect in these games, right? You try not to get too high with the highs or low with the lows. Everybody was low on the Dallas Stars after the game one lopsided loss. But if you watched that team all year, you knew that there was some bounce back appeal. And certainly it came in game two with the overtime victory. So, yeah, it's just a lesson to, keep on your toes with all these different swings of momentum in the series.
That is Stanley Cup playoff hockey to a T. A couple of game ones last night on the ice, a couple of game twos, and a couple of overtime thrillers. Let's start with the opening game in the series between the Capitals and the Canadiens. Tightly contested, Pete, throughout. And in overtime, the record setter, Alexander Ovechkin, adds another notch of history in his legendary NHL career. His first ever playoff overtime winner to deliver the Caps a victory to start off their series against the Habs 3-2 in the extra session. Washington takes a 1-0 series lead led by Alexander Ovechkin. Pete, how does this guy keep delivering where he is in his NFL career? Or NHL career, excuse me.
Yeah, he looks like an NFL player, right? Parked in front of the net and knocking that home for sure. I mean, we know his physicality complements his high shot volume and his finishing ability, especially from that left side. But I think at different points in this series against the Canadiens, you're going to see Washington's size, physicality overwhelm the young, surprising Canadiens a little bit when push comes to shove. That said, the speed of Montreal got them back into that game last night. I actually picked Montreal for the upset because I didn't like how Washington was, kind of limping into the playoffs performance-wise. Logan Thompson came back from injury yesterday, looked pretty good, so that's a good sign. Still playing without Alexi Protas, who's another one of those guys. If Protas comes back, he's another sizable guy, plays a lot on Ovechkin's opposite wing, and another one of those powerhouse guys that has gotten Washington to this point in the season.
Games were phenomenal last night. All four games decided by one goal, which included multiple games heading to overtime. But the game I want to talk about with you, Pete, if you were able to stay up late last night and catch that Oilers-Kings game, what a fantastic finish. A 4-goal lead for the Kings, watching that disappear late in the final 2 minutes, only to have it stolen back by the Kings to take that game before they even got to overtime. Unbelievable action. 11 total goals scored in that game, Pete.
Yes, that's a series and obviously the game where you're going to want to keep an eye on the live line because there's going to be a lot of swings. Even if the Kings win this series, you know that McDavid and Draisaitl are not going to go down without a fight by any stretch of the imagination. So, yeah, nice recovery by the Kings. I wanted to give a shout out to Andrei Kuzmenko, one of the hidden gems of the trade deadline, had a goal, 2 assists, 5 shots on goal, and per Edge Stats, which is the NHL's advanced stats. People should go on nhl.com/edge and click around and see some of these things. And Kuzmenko actually, through the first few days of the playoffs, has the highest offensive zone time percentage of any player in the league. So that gives people a chance to maybe get an edge in the props market and stuff like that. But yeah, what a furious comeback. That's got to be deflating for Edmonton to make a comeback like that and still lose the game with how they've been playing in recent months.
The Kings jumped out to a 4-0 start. They had a 3-goal lead in that third period before Edmonton, courtesy of Connor McDavid, equalized at 5-all. The Kings victorious. And Pete, as you well know, Los Angeles trying to get some revenge on the Oilers, who have ousted the Kings from the playoffs in the opening round each of the last 3 Stanley Cup postseasons. A couple of game twos last night. Pete, it's the game you discussed as we welcomed you on. Count out Dallas. The Stars equalized their series against the Avs at a game apiece with the overtime thriller yesterday, 4-3. What did the Stars figure out last night in game number 2 against the Avs?
I mean, they cashed in on more of their high danger chances than they did in the first game when Mackenzie Blackwood, the Avalanche goalie, stopped all 11 high danger shots faced in a single game. He faced 10 last night, not so pretty, of course, including the overtime winner by Colin Blackwell, which was a great individual effort and follow through and a second chance opportunity late in the game. I mean, Dallas has the deepest offense in the league, even with how they kind of limped into the postseason with a losing streak. And of course, we all know what a shame that was. Jason Robertson, last regular season game of the season, didn't mean anything. He got injured. Now he's injured. He's been their top forward. But luckily, Dallas is so deep. Wyatt Johnston is a great playoff performer. Mikko Rantanen, of course, facing his former team. And all of a sudden, Dallas claws back here to even the series.
Let's take a look at the awards market, too. It's never too early to take a look at these because I do think it's interesting and certainly a correlation. You take a look at the series between the Jets and the Blues. The Jets are up 2-0, which means Winnipeg's goalie, Connor Hellebuck, has 2 victories there. He sits at a 12-1 price right now to win the Conn Smythe Trophy. Aho, McKinnon, Eichel, Jarvis, and McCarr behind him. Without asking you, can Hellebuck win it? Is there somebody at a price point that even after a game or two in some of these series that you still have your eye on here, Pete?
I mean, look at the 10th guy on that board, Nikita Kucherov. Nobody has more points than this guy since 2015-16. And that, of course, overlaps with McDavid's career and stuff like that. 2-time Stanley Cup champ. And always an interesting wrinkle for those multi-cup champions. Hedman won it one year, the Conn Smythe for Tampa Bay, and Vasilevsky won it the other year. So maybe this year, if Tampa Bay makes another deep run with their core, 5 players or so of elite players. Of course, Victor Hedman's still on the team. Braden Point's still on the team. Brandon Hagel's a beast. I feel like Tampa Bay, nobody's really talking about them making a deep run. But if they do and if they win the thing, Kucherov has led the league in scoring 2 straight years. So there's a lot of writing on the wall there, guys.
Yeah.
Let's talk about those Bolts in their opening game of the Sunshine State Showdown against the Panthers tonight, and 3 other Game 2s to break down with Pete Jensen. That's up next. Back for a second consecutive segment. That's what he deserves during the Stanley Cup postseason. Pete Jensen with us here on this Tuesday morning on the early line on SportsGrid. Pete, we recapped the 4 games we saw last night in the Stanley Cup playoffs on a Monday. Another quadruple header on this Tuesday. 3 Game 2s. We'll get to those in a second. And a rare opening game as well of a playoff set between a couple of Florida rivals. It's the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Florida Panthers. Minus 126 in favor of the Bolts tonight as they welcome in the reigning Stanley Cup champs. Pete, as you look at this Sunshine State rivalry and what we will see here in this opening round series, what will we see tonight in this opening game that could dictate what we see the rest of the set?
Yeah, it's interesting that there's a plus number on the defending champs, especially when you could very well get news after this segment is over that Matthew Tkachuk would be returning. It sounds like he's like a game day decision. But again, he's been out ever since the 4 Nations tournament. He's been circling this date on his calendar, or the long weekend, whatever you want to call it. So I think like Matthew Tkachuk is very live to appear in this series and make an impact. And if you look at the fact that he would be joining in terms of the projected lines, aligned with Sam Bennett, his trusted centerman, and then also Brad Marchand, the grizzled veteran playoff performer from the Boston Bruins all those years. Remember, they added him at the deadline. Like, that's a ridiculous second line. And that's why that number was so big on Kucherov, because as much as we love Kucherov and what he's done regular season and postseason in his career, the Bolts are no lock to get out of this first round with Florida standing in their way. That's for sure.
Yeah, really good lineup there to start, no doubt about it. Now, we have 4 games tonight, and Ben's heard me rant on this quite some time. And I know you might have an open line to Gary Bettman here, which you can help me out, Pete, because 6 o'clock game tonight, Devils Hurricanes. Fantastic. Genius. Whoever's in the marketing room, I love that. 7:30 game, Senators Maple Leafs. Fantastic. 8:30 game, Panthers Lightning, which we just talked about. Great. 11 o'clock game tonight with the Wild and the Gold. 11 o'clock game. Move that. Pete, please, can you make a phone call to move that bad boy up? Is there any help you can give us here?
I mean, it's going to be a late night out in Vegas for sure. Vegas is a strong home team. Don't count out those Minnesota Wild, though. Like, they did get Kaprizov back late in the regular season. They got Joel Eriksson Ek back late in the regular season. And remember, he had a 4-goal game in his return to the lineup a couple of weeks ago. So maybe that's a guy to keep an eye on in an against-the-grain spot in the props market. But I think that Vegas and Carolina in this round, I'm not saying that they're going to cruise here, but there are good chances that those series end in, 4 or 5, maybe 6 games. Those are probably the only 2 series in the entire league this postseason where you can really pinpoint a clear advantage with those 2 teams. So that's what I'm looking at. Definitely worth staying up, though, to see if the Wild pull the upset and tie the series.
Yeah, I don't know why this Donnie guy is complaining, Pete. He's going to be asleep by 8 p.m. anyway. It's tougher for you, who has to wake up in the morning and enlighten us here on the early line. Yeah. So thank you, Pete, for doing that, DRS. Maybe see if there's another open line of communication. Pete, you mentioned it. Yes. The Golden Knights and the Hurricanes victorious in game number 1. Both very hefty favorites, nearing $2.50 on the money line tonight to take a 2-0 series advantage. And when we look at Carolina, a short favorite relative to the rest of the field to hoist Lord Stanley's Cup at a plus 470 price, more than $2 in front of everybody else still playing here in the Stanley Cup postseason. Pete, what is it about the Canes that makes them such a legitimate Stanley Cup contender?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing about them that's different from previous years, we always view them as a possession juggernaut and a team that's going to make a deep run. I think they're the only team in the past 4 or 5 years that has won at least one round every single year. And they usually get it, they usually have the coaching style to complement regardless of the first round opponent. It's just eventually when push comes to shove, they usually outshoot their opponents and they can't finish. This year, they have a couple of different wrinkles. Even though they had to trade away Mikko Rantanen, I'm looking at the rookies on this team, guys. Logan Stankoven, multi-point game in his first game. He has untapped potential, was underutilized with the Dallas Stars before that trade. And also Jackson Blake, among the rookie leaders in goals, in shots on goal, even strength goals. And these are new, it's new blood in the equation for Carolina, and maybe could change the narrative for them. Remember that Metro bracket is the clearest path to the conference finals of all 4 NHL divisions this postseason.
Pete Jensen, as always, the insight is greatly appreciated. Hour number 3 up next.